Well, it was an explosive day in Lower Manhattan as former President Donald Trump took the stand in his civil fraud trial. The case could potentially ban Trump from doing business here in New York.
All right. Anthony Scaramucci was the former White House communications director in the Trump administration. It was short-lived, but everybody, you know, Anthony's okay. He's doing all right, right?
I think I'm doing great. I think I'm doing a little bit better than Donald Trump right at this moment, Rosanna. I'm talking to the two of you. I'm not talking to a judge and the attorney general.
That's true. You got a point there, Anthony. All right. So what do you think? How do you think this trial is moving along?
Well, I'm surprised, to be honest. You know, number one, I think this trial is unfair. I think I've been very clear on that. And 76% of the Republicans, which don't agree on hardly anything, also agree that this is politically motivated. But I'm surprised by the president's behavior yesterday. I would have thought he would have been way more controlled and way more subdued. I don't think his testimony, when you read the transcript and you read the reactions in the courtroom, I don't think that helps him. And he's usually a gamer. You know, whatever my differences are with the president, he's a stage performer and he usually comes to play. I thought he was going to handle himself more like the second debate after the Access Hollywood issue in 2016, when we were all in St. Louis. He didn't do that at all. He was accusing everybody of a lot of stuff. I mean, you can't go after the judge in a bench trial without a jury and call the judge and the attorney general a hack in your testimony. I don't think that helps your case.
I know. It's like cutting off your nose.
By the way, I don't think the case is fair, Rosanna, but I don't think that's the right way to handle it. This is bad coaching or
right. You got to play nice with the judge, even though the judge has said things to him and to his attorney which are questionable.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where this, you know, look, if he gets convicted on this, he'll end up appealing it, and he may likely win on the appeal. I think there's a bigger issue here, though, is if this consumer protection law was put together to protect the little guy, is Mr. Trump a little guy? That's a question mark. I say that he's not. Moreover, he was operating with some of the biggest banks in the world. They don't do their own due diligence on his asset base. So it is a really tough argument to make. So if he's convicted, I predict that he'll appeal it, and he could likely win this on appeal. But I don't like the case. I've said that from day one. I think it's too politically motivated.
And I think a lot of people would agree with that. But do you think that this ultimate, you know, ruling of not being able to do business in New York, where this could potentially lead to, is that fair?
I don't think it's fair, but remember, Bianca, if he gets convicted while he's on appeal, they'll start taking his licenses away from doing business in New York, you know, because he'll be quote unquote convicted. Again, it's a civil case, but you get what I mean. He'll get his licenses revoked in New York. He's been in New York for 50 plus years, as Rosanna knows. And again, whatever my differences are with the president, what is happening, in my opinion, is not fair. You know, we'll have to see how it turns out, but he should not have handled himself like that yesterday. I don't even think he's happy with the way he handled himself yesterday, honestly.
Because I know that as a, you know, serving in the White House role just for 11 days, you were still with him on the campaign for much longer than that. You kind of know his personality, the inner workings. Where is he at right now? Like, is there a point where he's just going to say, I'm just not going to run for president, and maybe the stuff will go away?
See, I don't see how it goes away. So I think he's in a Gordian knot. It's a great question, Bianca, but I think he's in a Gordian knot right now. If he pulls out and he has an avalanche of these cases hit him and he gets convicted on one of them, I think he views himself as having more power to protect himself and defend himself as a presidential candidate. Now, if you told me they did some kind of omnibus deal with him, they said, okay, we're going to drop these prosecutions, or you're going to have to plead to something minor on some of these cases, but you're not running again. Several of his family members have told friends of mine that they would want him to do that. Now, whether or not the president would take that, I don't know. My guess is he would not take that at this point. There probably was a deal to do 5 or 6 months ago, but it's too far along now. Now, remember, he's got 91 indictments coming. This case on the top secret documents and the case on the election situation, post-election situation on January 6th are big dilemmas for him and his family. So, you know, if he's the presidential candidate, he has way more power, Bianca, than not being the presidential candidate.
You know, Donald Trump talks about the political motivations behind some of these cases. He talked about, Attorney General Letitia James, who claims that it's not politically motivated, but yet there were videos of her talking about going after Trump before she was even elected.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I think that the friends of Andrew Cuomo would say that some of the stuff was politically motivated as it related to him. And listen, there's probably some truth in both things, meaning that somewhere in the middle, I'm sure there's some things that Mr. Trump did wrong. But the question is, what about these other real estate developers? Is she now going to bring cases against every single one of them? Because, guys, if you think he's the only person in New York that inflated his assets, there's bridges for sale that I could sell you guys. And come on, we know that that's not the case. So what is the law, and are we going to practice it and be linear with it, meaning get everybody on this? And so a lot of these real estate executives would have to be concerned about that. But I can see why the president is frustrated. But I don't think he should have handled himself in court that way. I don't see how that helps him. And I'll tell you why. It's not going to help him on appeal, because when the appellate court gets those transcripts, they're not going to be in love with that behavior.
Yeah. Anthony Scaramucci, you have a point there. Hey, listen, go out and vote. Long Island, very important. A lot of stuff going on Long Island.
You know you love it out here, Rosanna. I see you out here. You love the shopping out here, Rosanna.
I know. Well, I see you in Stop and Shop. Stay away from the carrots, okay?
That's true.
All
right, you promise no processed foods.
All right. Thanks, Anthony. Have a good day.